Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is the podcast on the Main Event 365. Your host, Main Event Mike, back with another show along with our producer, Russ Wayne. How are you, Russ?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Man, I'm so excited. I'm so ready for Lions football to come back. The bye week just seems to take forever, right? Here we are, 1-4. That's not real encouraging. That doesn't make me happy, but it does make me happy that we are coming back and we're going to play the team I hate more than any team in the world other than the Boston Celtics, the Dallas Cowboys, in the Big D. The Lions survived the bye week. I think no other team needed to rest up more than the Lions. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I would 100%. I think that it couldn't have came at a better time for us because we got hit with the injury bug early. We're not going to deny that.
And gives a week to get back. I read a couple articles today where Dan Campbell and the coaches were digging in and they were coming up with, some alternative plans and taking a deeper dive into the plays that they're calling and the defensive alignments that they're making. And they're going to really try to make some adjustments. Dan Campbell was on record saying that the Lions feel like they've hit rock bottom at 1-4 and things just are not clicking. That New England loss was demoralizing and crushing. And the way the injuries hit our secondary was totally bizarre. And we really needed this bye week to not only get things in order in our own house with the coaching staff, but just to get healthier and take a breather and reattack this season as we come down the stretch for the final 12 games of the season. So the Lions go into go into Dallas to play the Cowboys, which is a real tough place to play. What do you expect to see on Sunday, Russ?
What do I expect to see on Sunday? I think a better question is whose return is the most crucial.
Okay, right. Because of all the injuries, all the players were getting back. So who's going to make the biggest impact?
So I think that ties into your question.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't think that it's any one person. I think it's the fact that you could get multiple people back. Like, Jerry Jacobs is expected to be there. We may actually see our second round draft pick, Josh Pascal, play football. Wow. Our second, do we even have a second round pick? I don't think that Brad Holmes has had a second round pick on the field for more than a couple of plays. So this is going to be nice.
They said he's been practicing all week. I read an article today. They said they do expect him to play. I think the biggest impact is going to come from probably John Comiskey coming back on the defensive line. Before he went out in week 2, he was so disruptive and he was bringing pressure on the quarterback. He was making other people around him better. It was giving them a chance to roam free a little bit, especially Aiden Hutchinson and those guys in week 2. They played well. They shut out the Commanders in the first half. And he was an integral part of that. So definitely getting all of the secondary back is going to be crucial. I also think it's going to be big to have Amon-Ra St. Brown back with not a limited snap count like he had in New England. Because it's really becoming apparent to me that he is the real motor of this offense. He is the emotional leader and the guy that really gets it going for him on offense, makes the catch on third down when we need it. He's our most consistent receiver. He seems to have the best hands in the receiving corps. So I think Amon-Ra St. Brown and John Comiskey, their returns on each side of the ball is going to be the most crucial and make the biggest impact for the Lions. What say you?
Well, I mean, let's go even further than that because there's a handful of people. What about Deandre Swift? Swift. That's the biggest playmaker. I mean, I love you, Jamal Williams. Like, I am a Jamal Williams fan. I love his attitude, and I think he is a great running back. I think that Deandre Swift is a special running back. He's the kind of guy that every time he touches the ball, you have to take a gasp of air because you don't know if he's going to take it to the house or not. So Deandre Swift could be the X factor when it comes to this game. What say you?
Well, what I say is you're absolutely right. Every time Deandre Swift touches the ball, I take a gasp because I'm afraid he's going to get injured. The best ability is availability. We've said it before. and he is explosive and a special player. But man, you just can't miss 5 or 6 games a year and really be counted on. For me, Jamal Williams, I agree with you, is a fantastic running back. He's a blue collar, brings his hard hat and his lunch to work every day, never complains, never seems to get hurt. Definitely DeAndre Swift, a special guy, and getting him back is going to be great for the Lions. I just hope he can stay healthy and string together multiple weeks of good health.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question, since you're the one that loves the Vegas odds so much. So I don't, this isn't Vegas odds. This is coming right out of my head. We got 12 games left, correct?
Yeah.
So over or under 6 games, DeAndre Swift starts and has, an impact.
Wow. I would probably guess 6. So if you're setting the line at 6,
let's go 6.5. No, we got to do it at 6.5. Then.
All right, I'm going to go 7. I'm going to go 7. That he plays in 7 out of 12.
Okay. I mean, see, main event Mike, don't mess around. He's not only just going to take the bet, he's going to say, look, it's going to be 7. He could have just taken the over, but no, he's going to pay attention to the details. And that's what we do here.
I think 7 out of 12. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope he plays 12 out of 12. And I hope he gets 1,000 yards, since we haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher in a while. So
hallelujah. Wow. That would be awesome, man. I'm going to take the over as well. I think that, they were very smart to go ahead and rest him and just let Jamal Williams, tote the rock, even though they were losses. I would rather have a full health, or a shot at a full health DeAndre Swift, rather than half of him for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Jamal Williams definitely held down the fort. He definitely did a great job. I could actually see him being our everyday back if Swift were to be out an extended period of time. And I think we have good depth with Craig Reynolds coming off the bench too. Craig's definitely a hard runner. He looked good in the New England game, 92 yards from scrimmage. I really like Craig's game. And so I think Craig and Jamal are a definitely a capable running back duo. But like you said, DeAndre Swift is special. And this Goffense can roll like it did in the first 3 or 4 weeks against Dallas. And it's going to go a long way towards helping us get the victory on Sunday. So as we move on, our next topic is the trade deadline, which is coming up on November the 1st. Not a lot out there. I looked at some of the players that are rumored to be traded, and nothing really that seemed like a good fit. On our main stage Monday open mic night, Coach Darcy kind of floated it out there. Maybe the Lions could make a play for Roquan Smith from the Chicago Bears. I personally don't see that happening, but it definitely was an intriguing proposal. I definitely think we need help on the defensive side. If Brad Holmes makes any moves before the deadline, I think it would be on defense. We may see maybe a 3rd string DB get plucked from another team for a late round draft choice. I definitely could see that happening. What do you think, Russ? What do you think that Brad Holmes is going to do here at the trade deadline? Or do you think he'll do nothing at all? Maybe stand pat with what he's got?
I'm on the side of standing pat, because he hasn't really. I mean, if you look at his track record, this isn't really in his style to go out and make a move like this. Now, I may change my tune next year when I think that they're going to go a little more all into influx some veteran leadership into a young culture that is being built. So I think that they are building a culture that is very nice for.
So you mean during free agency?
Wait, I'm talking free agency next year. So I don't think they're going to do anything right now, because that's just not in his style. I mean, I don't want to say we're not trying to win now, but we're kind of not trying to win right now. So for them to go out and get a Roquan Smith and pay a guy, a contract now with a 30 above player, like $15 million a year, that's just not what Brad Holmes is.
That's not in the plans. But a player like Roquan Smith is amazing, and that would immediately make our defense better.
Absolutely.
But I agree. I don't see them making a big splash move here. We've got a lot of draft capital. We've got a lot of cap room going into next year. we've got a serviceable team right now. We weren't expecting to light the world on fire this year anyway. So let's stand pat. Or like I said, I could see. Couldn't you see him though going and getting maybe an extra safety or an extra DB? Somebody
Yeah.
willing to part with.
So here's what I like. If they're going to go do something, I would say that they would go and get somebody that's just about ready to flip over to a contract that they're not signing, to a second
Right.
contract, a rookie guy that's going into a second contract that they can develop, that's young, that has a little bit of experience. But I don't see them going out and getting a guy that they're going to immediately have to pay a lot of money to, that hasn't been around our culture. Like they valued, I would say, above average guys over better guys that are veterans at the beginning of the season because of familiarity with how the coaches want to coach and the culture and bringing the new people in. So,
Right.
do I think that those people are going to last going to, the winning team that we're going to build for next year? No, I think that a lot of heads are going to get cut this year, and there's going to be a nice influx of talent next year as well.
Well, the trade deadline is rapidly approaching on November the 1st. We'll keep an eye on that and see what the Lions do. Moving on, the Lions are 1-4. They did have the number one offense and one of the top three offenses in the league right now. Defense is dead last. There's been a lot of questionable coaching calls. There's been a lot of exposure of how thin this team is on the defense as well. So, I mean, you've got three candidates there: Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator. The Lions are 1-4, Russ. So tell me, who's to blame for that? Is there anybody of those three that we can point to and say, this is the guy that it's on?
I'm very, very prepared for this question because one of our friends, David Pike, on his show on Sunday, I got to answer this question. I got to answer this question on the main stage on Monday. And I think it's 100% the most to blame is Dan Campbell. And I love Dan Campbell. I'm a Dan Campbell guy. He's got me at the word kneecaps. Like, you had me right there. But here's the thing. With your bad coaching by itself, with the way that our team had played, we should be 3-2 right now. Now, you might be able to argue that Philadelphia game, I guess if you add drop passes, we could be 4-1 instead of 1-4 very, very easily. But definitely 3-2 just with Dan making the correct coaching calls within the game. And I can't blame Aaron Glenn as much because Dan Campbell put him in some pretty bad positions. Like in that game with New England, I think that the field position game should have been played with them. We have a young defense. We have a good offense. And I would think that you would lean on the offense, and they were making coaching calls like they were leaning on the defense. And we had all those injuries. It was just, yeah, I think that 100% Dan Campbell needs to grow up. He needs to learn that this is the NFL. This isn't John Madden football, that we need to win some games, and you need to get out of the way because we're talented enough to win games.
Right. I agree with that. Great take right there, Russ. I think that when you go for it on fourth down, especially excessively, it's because you have a defense that you don't mind putting out there. And obviously we've got some struggles on defense. Easy to point a finger at Aaron Glenn and especially after the Seattle game and say that, we couldn't stop anything. But the defense played better in New England. He made some adjustments. We got a lot of red zone stops. They had to get 5 field goals to beat us. But the graphic says 1-4. Who's to blame? I think it has to fall squarely at the feet of Dan Campbell because that graphic could say 2-3 if not for the Minnesota game. He directly was responsible for us losing the Minnesota game, in my opinion, not just the fourth down Cowboy stuff that he did, but also the horrible timeout at the end of the game. And then to not have your team prepared after the horrible timeout. We'll never know what could have been, but I firmly believe that we'd be 2-3 at the very worst with the Minnesota game. And then Minnesota had a double doink field goal where they won in London against the Saints. Otherwise, everybody wouldn't be all crazy about them at 5-1 either. So things could be a lot different. But right now, I got to put it on our coach for getting us to 4-1 or 1-4. We could easily at least be 2-3, in my opinion. So,
wow,
moving
man.
on.
This is one of those weird things. I do have to say we don't agree on a lot of these topics. So I'm going to note that we agreed that Dan Campbell needs to grow up and be a better coach for.
But I think neither one of us are ready to give up on him either.
Oh,
we both
no.
believe in him, and I think the players believe in him. And I think that this game against Dallas is going to be a litmus test. This is going to be a big, I don't know, it's going to be a little peek into, is this team starting to give up on Dan the way a lot of fans are? You can look at social media, and they are crucifying Dan Campbell all over the place.
Oh, it's way too early. And the thing is like, you'll know when all of the deflate is out of the fan base and everything, because there is still some things that you can look forward to. I don't think that they're 100% out of winning this game. We're going to get to our takes of who's going to win the game a little bit later, but we have some pieces in place right now, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that I think that our offense can hang with that really, really good defense. And we've invested a lot of money to make sure that we can hang with the best defenses in the league with our offense. So, no, we're not done with you, Dan. We're not done with you, Dan. You have this Cowboy game. You have this Cowboy game to get yourself right. You want to prove that you're an NFL coach and that that Hard Knocks wasn't just a bunch of fluff. Go in to the Cowboys, break that long road game losing streak, and beat the Cowboys on the road. That's how you cement your name.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if the players are still playing hard for them. It'll be interesting to see if Dallas runs all over us. They are expecting to get their starting quarterback, Dak Prescott, back for this game. The article that I read today said that he is hell-bent on starting Sunday against the Lions. But if not, we may see Central Michigan product Cooper Rush, who's done a great job. He did fall to the Eagles last week, but they're arguably the best team in the league right now and the only undefeated team. And he played valiantly. They almost pulled it out at the end. So Cooper Rush has done a great job filling in for Dak, but Dak comes back, and it is not beyond the realm of possibility that the Cowboys could actually roll all over us with Dak back in the lineup, with their running game, their offensive line, and their top 5 defense in the league. It's definitely doable. But I could also see the Lions winning the toss, taking the ball, and come jumping out to a lead. Right? You never know what could happen. When you've got an offense like this that can score quick, that can make explosive plays, you can blow the game open sometimes. So it will be interesting to see what happens. I think the first half of the game is going to be crucial on Sunday. That we don't have the defense to hang in second half shootouts. We've already seen that. We need to jump out to a lead and protect it in the second half. So I really hope we get out to a good start in the first half. And what do you expect to see from the Cowboys on Sunday?
Well, I'll tell you, like, I think that the bye week couldn't have came at a better time, but the opponent coming out of the bye week is like the worst opponent that we could be going up against. They're frightening to me. Micah Parsons, a lot of people think that we should have taken Micah Parsons over Penei Sewell. And I would give that argument some validity. But I love Penei Sewell. I also am on the side of the Sewell argument too. So it's one of those things, man. If Micah Parsons blows up and sacks Jared Goff 3 times in this game, that question's going to be ringing a lot louder and louder and louder, especially since they kind of play each other, especially if he beats Sewell to get to the quarterback. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, but they are frightening. But where we are strong is going up against where they are strong. They have one of the best defenses in the league, and we're getting our whole offensive line back. So the Lions' keys to beating the Cowboys are going to be 100% number one thing is we need phenomenal offensive line play when we need to keep Jared Goff clean from all of those playmakers on defense. The highest paid offensive line in the league needs to play like they're the best offensive line in the league. Go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned Micah Parsons. They also have DeMarcus Lawrence. They have some real studs on that defense. But maybe someone who doesn't get as much credit as those guys is the defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn does a great job of disguising coverages. He moves people in and out. He switches from a 3-4 to a 4-3 on the fly. He's bringing pressure. You never know where the pressure's coming from, and he mixes it up constantly. So I think definitely one of the keys to winning this game for the Lions is how Jared Goff reacts to that, how he's able to make changes at the line of scrimmage to adjust to what the Cowboys are doing defensively, because they pull a lot of stunts over there on that Dallas defense. And it's going to be crucial that the Lions don't get buried under the game plan that Dan Quinn's got for them, and they're able to make adjustments to beat some of these packages that Dallas is going to show them. So I think one of the keys to beating the Cowboys is how Goff reacts to the defense. And I also think is stopping the run. Dak Prescott is not the greatest passer in the world, and he's got a really injured thumb, and he's going to be rushing. It seems to me that he's rushing his return. So I think it's going to be crucial for the defense to stop the run, and let's make Dak beat us, or let's make Cooper Rush beat us. The Cowboys are already thin at receiver. They got CeeDee Lamb, who is arguably a real number one. And they've got Michael Gallup, who's coming off a horrendous injury, who's just starting to get his feet wet, coming back to play. So they're thin at receiver. Dalton Schultz has a banged up knee. They're tight end. The passing game is just what the Lions need, actually, is someone thin at receiver that we can play, because we are thin at DB. And of course, our secondary and our back seven is probably the weakest part of our entire team. So I think stopping the run is going to be real crucial for the Lions to win on the defensive side of the ball. And if they can do the same thing that they did in New England and stop them in the red zone, limit them to some field goals, I think the Lions have a real chance.
So let's talk about that health right there on the defensive side of the ball, because we talked about the secondary being one of the worst in the league. But one of the things I'm really going to be looking forward to is that matchup between Jeff Okudah and CeeDee Lamb. If he can lock down that man right there and lock down their number one like he did Jefferson, that's going to be a big deal. And then we have Jerry Jacobs coming back, and I don't think that can be undersold. I think that he is a huge contributor because he can play inside and outside as far as the different packages, and he's going to upgrade to special teams as well. And then another guy is Kirby Joseph. Had his best game as a pro, over 70 on the PFF rating from the safety position. Is our third round pick going to play like he's for real? If these different chemistry type things come together, Lions keys to beating the Cowboy would be some of these younger players starting to build some chemistry together and start playing some ball. And we have some of those secondary players coming back. So, like I said last week, injuries was the reason and not an excuse. We're not making excuses, but now these guys are coming back. So can they back it up?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Everyone knows we're one of the youngest teams in the league, especially on defensive side of the ball. And, players say as they get more reps, the game starts to slow down for them. So hopefully we can see that maturing happen as the year goes on, and Dallas would be a great start for that to happen.
Yeah.
So hopefully the game will slow down for some of these young players, and they can get something going, because they've looked really bad on defense the last few games. And Dallas is a real tough team to play. But you also mentioned the matchup between Okudah and CeeDee Lamb. I think Okudah can win this matchup. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's a good receiver. I don't think he's a great receiver. He's not an all-pro receiver.
He ain't no Justin Jefferson.
He's no Justin Jefferson. Last year, he was the number 2 on the team behind Amari Cooper, was clearly the number 1 receiver on the team. So I really don't think that Okuda's in over his head. He's held his own against A.J. Brown. He's held his own against Justin Jefferson, against Terry McLaurin. And I think all 3 of those guys are better receivers than CeeDee Lamb, in my opinion. So I definitely think that's a matchup that Okudah can win. It'll be interesting to see how Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys scheme him to try to get him open against Okudah. So definitely that's an intriguing matchup. Anything else to add there? Any other intriguing matchups for you?
Oh, for sure. I think that the most intriguing matchup goes to it's that offensive line versus their front 7. And like, they got to keep Jared Goff clean because we don't have a chance. But one thing that I did kind of recognize in that Philadelphia game is when they start pulling them stunts on you and changing direction, they are susceptible to the run. So I think that they start pulling that slick stuff on us, that they may be able to run Swift right off Frank Ragnow while they messing around, and he's going to be in the secondary while they're pulling them stunts.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Last week, Miles Sanders had a big game, and you're right. Philadelphia did seem to be able to run the ball on Dallas, so that might be something that we're looking for. That we might have a real potent run game against Dallas, of course, which is going to open up the play action pass for Jared Goff and Amon-Ra. So definitely a great call out there. The Lions might be able to run on Dallas, and that might be able to keep Dak Prescott on the sideline if we can kill the clock and run the ball. So I'd like to remind all the people listening to this podcast that you can also watch what we're doing. If you want to head over on to our YouTube channel and type in the Main Event 365 and check out all of our content, like and subscribe if you haven't already. So subscribing doesn't cost anything, but it really goes a long way to help us continue to provide great Detroit Lions content for you. Moving on now, we're going to move to our segment that we like to call predictions. And we are going to predict this Lions game. And I'm going to let you go first, Russ. Dallas Cowboys at home against the Lions. They are a 7-point favorite against the Detroit Lions. What's your predictions for this game on Sunday?
Well. So the Dallas Cowboys versus the Detroit Lions. It's a 7-point underdog right there. So if I was going to take this game, gosh, I think that the Lions are going to come in there and we're going to be all charged up. We're going to go forward down the field. A Lions team that will not yield. And we're going to be pumped up. We're going to get in a real close game. We're going to get down to the end. And Dan Campbell's not going to go for it on 4th down. And the kicker's going to miss a field goal. We're going to lose 28-27.
Heartbreaker in Dallas. And our kicker misses the field goal to win.
Justifies Dan all of the 4th downs. He's going to justify all of them.
Snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Wow.
I've had enough of that shit.
Yeah. You said it, Dan. Well, that's a very optimistic take, and it could go that way. You know what else could happen? The Lions could jump out to an early lead in the first half, take this Dallas team by surprise. Dallas doesn't know what's going on. Before you know it, we're up a couple of touchdowns, and that offense is rolling. The bye week allowed Dan Campbell and them to scheme and come up with a game plan that can get them out in front. That is another scenario that can happen. Unfortunately, for my prediction, I'm going to take option C. And that is the Cowboys roll over the Lions. They're just too much team for us. They are the better up and down the roster. They're better up in the executive booth. They are better on the sideline. And they are just a better team.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes.
I think the Lions will not cover the spread. And I'm going to predict a score of 27-10. The Lions lose to Dallas. It is time now for our lock picks. And that is where we look around the league everywhere but Detroit. And I'm going to start with me. Normally, I let myself go last on this one, but this time we're going to give you the headline stage.
Oh, you're all jacked up, huh?
Yeah, I am currently 3-3 on my lock picks. I'm batting 500 for the year after I chose the Baltimore Ravens against the New York Giants, giving up 5 points. They actually lost the game outright. And I have to admit, Russ, I did not do my due diligence last week. I'm going to admit to all of my listeners and to you, I apologize. I had a busy week, and I didn't really get a chance to dissect all the picks and make a good lock pick. I mean, I glanced over it a couple times, thought about it a little bit, but I didn't dive into who was out, who was in, what are the weather conditions, etc. And
but they are who we thought they were.
And I took Baltimore, not even realizing that they didn't even have a number one receiver on the field. Rashad Bateman was out. New York Giants been playing above their head. Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale's just doing a great job over there. And they beat a quality team in the Baltimore Ravens. So I went 3-3. So this week, I'm going to go back to the well, and I'm going to do my due diligence, and which I have done. And I am going to take the Las Vegas Raiders -7. I'm going to give up 7, but they are at home against the Houston Texans. The Raiders are one of the big surprises in the NFL that they've been playing so poorly, and they're sitting at 1-4. They're another 1-4 team. Actually 1-5 now, maybe. I'm not sure, but they're at home, and the Houston Texans aren't very good. And I think this is a great opportunity for the Raiders to get off the schneid and pull out a big win. And I think they cover the spread. Las Vegas Raiders -7. What do you got for a lot?
Well.
But wait, I got to preface it. I've got to tell our listeners that what you are about to hear, you may want to record it. You may want to pay close attention, because what you're about to hear is Mr. Russell Wayne about to make a lot pick, and he is 5 out of 6 in 2022 so far. His only loss came when he bet on Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. So that's kind of an unpredictable matchup. And that's the only loss he has this year, 5-6. Russ, we're all hanging on the edge of our seat. What is the Swami's pick this week?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm one of the only people that would have the courage to try to bet the Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers. And you know what? I'm going to stay in the Aaron Rodgers category right here. We got Green Bay giving up 5 points to the Washington. 5.5? Oh,
yep.
My gosh. It could be 15.5. It doesn't matter. I'm going to take Green Bay. You can go ahead and take 5.5 from me. I'll eat those points gladly, because this is the perfect get right game for Aaron Rodgers, the captain. I found myself by eating some magic mushrooms, Rodgers. Yeah, I think it's going to be a double-digit win. I don't think that the Washington, I mean, they don't even have a starting quarterback. They are reeling on the season. Their fan base is completely turning on them. So I think it's an easy pick. Green Bay -5. I'll eat those points gladly.
Just so that we're clear, it's 5.5. And that does make a difference when we're here, when we're picking, right? I don't want you to get this false sense of security thinking you got 5. You are giving up 5.5. Do you still want the bet?
You know what? Why don't we just go ahead and make it an even 6? I'll give him 6.
Whoa!
I think it's going to be double digits.
Take Green Bay and lay down the 5.5 to the Washington Commanders on the road. I agree with you, Russ. The Commanders are a dumpster fire all the way up to their ownership.
Easy money. Go make some money this weekend.
And after the Packers have lost to the Jets and the Giants in consecutive weeks, it does seem like a pretty good bet that they're going to go into Washington and take out their frustrations on the Commanders. So there you have it. 5.5 Green Bay for Russ. Vegas give up the 7 against Houston for me. That's our lock picks of the week. You have any parting shots for our audience today, Russ?
Well, I don't know. I feel like when you introduce me like that, I should be like, the Swami has spoken, or something like, or something like that, or Hey, thank you.
Well, 5 out of 6 is pretty impressive, my friend, and you deserve it, because 5 out of 6 is really hard to do, especially when you're talking about point spreads. So kudos to you there. You definitely deserve that praise. So I guess that's it then. Lions traveling to Dallas. We're all rooting for you, boys. Give them hell down there in the Big D. For Russell Wayne and all of us here at the Main Event 365, I'm Main Event Mike saying, peace out.
Forward down the field, a Lions team that will not yield.